Hello my friends, and welcome to one of my favorite videos of the year. This is where I share a bunch of books that I feel like are very autumnal in nature. They're my autumn book recommendations based on what I think is autumnal. So we've got books that are set in autumn, books that have a creep factor, books that can be pretty dark, but generally light wins out. That's how I prefer my dark books to go. We got some mystery. I also really like books, so I like books about books. So I've got some of those on here, some that just kind of have like those cozy autumnal vibes, and I'm excited to share them all with you. Also, I am wearing the shirt that I wore in my very first autumnal book recommendations video. I just thought that would be fun to do. The last few years, I've just shared my favorite kind of autumnal books from the last year. And this year I kind of wanted to share the best of the best from books that I own physical copies of. Because when it comes to creating a recommendations video, I feel like if it's a good enough book for me to own it, it's worth the list. So I have it separated into 3 different categories. 3.5 actually. We're gonna start with fantasy. Then I have some historical fiction books. I've got one that is just like purely mystery, doesn't really fit into a different category. And then a bunch of classics, which is also pretty broad because there's other genres within the classics, but I just thought I would separate it this way. And let's start with my stack of fantasy here. The first book I just read in the last week, haven't really talked about it yet, and that is Quarter Labyrinth by Victoria McCombs. This is the first book in the, I don't know if it's what the actual duology is called. It might just be the Quarter Labyrinth duology, or I'm not sure what the duology is called, but super good, really enjoyed it. This book actually takes place over all 4 seasons in a certain way. So our main character, her name is Wren Serenity. She is on the eve of her 16th birthday as the book starts. She is looking out over the sea, waiting for her father to arrive. He left her and her mother on this island years before to keep them safe, to keep them hidden. No one knows that he is the father/husband. He owns this fleet of ships, and on her 16th birthday, he's going to announce that Wren is going to be the heir to his fleet. Well, he doesn't really show up. And that is also the night where they announce the next Quarter Labyrinth. So every 4 years, this labyrinth appears on an island. It's always a different island, and there's always a prize for the winner. Well, the prize that's announced is the winner gets to captain this fleet of ships that Wren is supposed to inherit. So of course she wants to go and get into the Quarter Labyrinth. The island is a mystery. You have to like figure out like which island it's on. You only have a certain amount of days to get into the labyrinth, which can be difficult. And then there's only so much time to be able to reach the end. So I don't know if there's some years there's not a winner. And the labyrinth, you know how time is passing because it goes through all 4 seasons. So it starts in spring, goes through summer, then autumn, then winter. And by the end of winter, if you want to win, you got to get to the end. So Wren goes to the labyrinth, wants to win it. Her best friend Clark tags along. She wanted to go by herself, but he came with. And throughout the labyrinth, I really loved this edition. There are these stone gods who are mostly people that have previously done the labyrinth years before, and for some reason they became stone gods. So throughout the book there is these pictures of these people, as well as like their story of how they got into the labyrinth and why they stayed there. And I love that there's just all these different pictures and stories throughout the book that aren't spoilery because they don't really tell you anything that's going to happen. I mean, it tells you kind of like which one they're going to meet next. But it was just a really cool addition to the book. I will talk more about this in my September reading wrap-up, and I will read a number of quotes that I loved. But starting out with this one, this is like my newest read off of this stack. Then I want to share The Heir and the Spare by Kate Stradling. I really wanted to put one of hers on here, and this is, I think, my favorite of hers, and this is my favorite reading season, so why not? So our main character in here, what was her name? I don't even remember how to pronounce it. Ayana? She went to school abroad, kind of. She was bullied by her sister at home. So her parents sent her to school abroad, but she posed as a peasant all the years that she went to school. And this was a school where your ranking really affected your status. And she is the second born princess of the land that she's from. So technically she should have had a really high status. But because she was posing as a peasant for years, she was bottom of the totem pole for school, and her top tormentor is coming into her life because he's about to marry her other tormentor, which is her sister. So she's kind of excited that they are going to, like, she feels like it's, you know, kind of an even match. They were both kind of terrible people. The only thing is that the guy that's coming to marry her sister seems to be a kinder person than he was back in school. So she has this inner debate, like, do I just let them marry each other? Do I tell him what she's really like, etc. For those that like fantasy without actual magic, this is one of them, I think, because I don't really care about that. I don't care either way. I don't always remember, but I'm pretty sure it just takes place in like a fictitious world. It's definitely one of my favorite by Kate Stradling, but I've really enjoyed a lot of her books. Same with Victoria McCombs. They are in some ways very similar authors. So if you like one, definitely check out the other one. The next one is actually a short story collection. This is called Oliferous. I thought this would be a good one to share for fall because it's got a crow or a raven. Despite how many times I look up the difference, I never remember on the cover. Plus you've got like a whole flock of birds. It's got a little bit of that eerie fall vibe. So this has some short fairy tales, adventure stories, romance stories, and whimsy, which is some poetry. And all of these have to do with birds. So we've got some bird fairy tales and adventure stories and poetry. I really liked the diversity of this collection. Just the differences, like separating out the fairy tales and then having the poetry in there. My only thing I would have changed is I would have interspersed some poetry throughout, like at the end of every short story, have a poem or two. But this was a fun collection and it just felt very autumnal. Okay, beginning of November, a book that I would highly recommend reading is Fox by Nadine Brandeis. This is a fantastical historical fiction about the son of Guy Fawkes. So this is in a world where there is a stone plague that is happening. People are slowly turning into stone, those that are infected with the plague. And the world is based on a magic system where everyone has a different color of mask, and whatever color your mask is, you can control things in the world that are that color. So if my mask is green, I can control like trees and grass and green things, right? So it was very unique. I have not reread this and I always mean to. Then there's also the aspect of Guy Fawkes and how he has the gunpowder plot. And in here we're following his son. I actually don't know if Guy Fawkes really had a son, but I just really enjoyed the series. And as someone that is obsessed with England and all things England, I loved this. This was my first fantastical historical fiction, and I've read a couple others since then, like books that are set actually in history, have some true history about them. And I would love to read more if you guys have recommendations, because it inspires me to research more about those topics. I really liked it. Okay, this to me is like the ultimate autumnal read. It is on my list to reread this year, not for the first time. I have read this book a number of times, and it is The Oath by Frank Peretti. I got mine out of a little free library, so it doesn't have a dust jacket or anything, but I remember reading this as a teenager, getting it out from the library. How do I even describe The Oath? So it's kind of set in like regular old life, except that people in this town are slowly having hearts that ooze like a black oozy stuff. I don't really know. It's one of those books that every time I read it, I kind of like my chest hurts because I'm thinking about like my heart oozing blackness. There is also talk of there being a dragon like in the mountains or something. It's got a lot of creepy elements. It's Frank Peretti, who he has quite a few other books that are similar-ish. To me, this is the ultimate of his. There's definitely some aspects of like spiritual warfare going on, and yeah, I reread it, I think maybe my first year on BookTube, so like 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And I'm so excited to read it again. I'm waiting for October. To me, this has to be read in October. I don't remember like specifics with any of the characters right now. Oh yeah, it starts out with, I think this couple is camping, and the woman is running away from something. It's got like a, you hit the ground running kind of start. And then my last one in the fantasy/science fiction section is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. Every time I recommend this book, I always say I've still never read Twilight, still have zero desire to, but I really enjoyed The Host. Earth is being invaded by aliens pretty much in this book, and they are in the form of a little worm. They cut a slit at the back of people's necks, and this worm, I don't know, it goes into the brain, I guess, and takes over people's bodies. And we've got some people who are trying to stay away from having this happen to them, so they're like hiding out. And our main character, I think she's like 15-ish. She ends up getting infected and trying to fight against it. This is another one I'd like to reread, but like The Oath, these are big books. Oh yeah, and then if you've been infected, I think your eye is kind of like silvery. I don't know if that shows up on here, but man, do I need to reread this one too? I might need to, but it's so long. The last paragraph of the description actually is a very good one. One of the most compelling writers of our time, Stephanie Meyer, brings us a riveting and unforgettable novel about the persistence of love and the very essence of what it means to be human. Because the longer people are infected by these aliens, they like slowly start to lose themselves. And yeah, there's some really good conversations and thought-provoking questions that come up throughout this book. Okay, so that's all for that. Let's do my like one lone, doesn't fit into any other category, it's just a mystery. If you have not started the Thursday Murder Club series yet, why not start it in the fall? There's not, I don't think, anything really overly fall-ish about it, but it is a mystery, so to me that fits. And we are in a retirement village following 4 unlikely friends. We've got Elizabeth, who is a former police officer. We've got Joyce, who is just like the sweetest old lady. Like when you think of sweet old ladies, that's who you think of. There's Ron. He used to be a boxer, maybe? Some kind of fighter. He's a little rough around the edges. There's Ibram. He used to be a psychologist or something, so he's really smart. I feel like there was another one though. That's only 4, and it does say 4. I feel like there's someone else. But the local developer of their area, I think they're gonna develop right by their retirement village more, is found murdered. And so they decide, let's try to solve this mystery. I really fall in love with these characters. Joyce is our narrator, and sometimes we read her diary a bit, and she's just so sweet and like unassuming, and there's so many great lines. Oh man, it's another series I would just love to reread. But his what is he on, number 4 is coming out I think at the end of September, so I hope to read that. I highly recommend The Thursday Murder Club. I have not watched the movie yet. I hope to this fall. I've heard mostly good things about it, so that's encouraging. Okay, now the last three, not the last three, the next three are historical fiction. So I need to recommend a Jamie Jo Wright. I've got The Curse of Misty Wayfair. Most of her books could be substituted for this. If you like circus vibes, she's got the Bon Adventure Circus. I don't remember the title. She's got so many other great books, but this is my personal favorite. Her books are generally dual timeline, and I like the 1906-7 timeline in here because our main character is a post-mortem photographer, which I feel like, okay, yeah, that's perfect for October. September, I'm hoping to reread this in September. And then our like present day timeline, we've got follow a lady who got a letter from her mother who's battling dementia. She ends up in the area where Misty Wayfair was. And Misty Wayfair is a murdered woman who allegedly haunts the area. And so Thea sees her in 1907-ish, and then Heidi sees her in present day. And the thing I appreciate about Jamie Jo Wright is that her ghosts are always explained. And now that I like fantasy more, I don't mind some like unexplained, oh, it's just a ghost kind of vibes. But I think it's actually more impressive if you can write a like ghost story that doesn't actually have a ghost. That takes a lot more skill to kind of hide the clues. So yeah, I recommend a lot of Jamie Jo Wright's books, but this is my personal favorite. Next up, for some bookish vibes, non-creepy bookish vibes, we've got The Last Bookshop in London. So this is by Madeline Martin. This is a World War II novel, and our main character, whose name do I remember? Not at all. Grace. She lives in London. You're right, that would make sense since it's called The Last Bookshop in London. And she gets a job working at a bookshop. Now, the first portion of the book, she does not really like reading. I was like, why would you write a book called The Last Bookshop in London if your main character doesn't like to read? It was just a bit of a downer. But then we get to see Grace fall in love with reading, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. It's worth it. And then, of course, we are in World War II, so we've got bombing and all the things that go along with that. And this was a book that I just devoured. If you like bookish vibes, they do come. It takes a little while to get into them, but they do come. For a book that made me feel anxious in all the best ways, I mean, if an author can do that, that says something. This is The Lost Melody by Joanna Davidson Politano. We are set, I always forget, is it Victorian England or maybe Edwardian? I don't remember exactly. But we follow a concert pianist, Vivian. Her father dies, and he leaves something in his will where he mentions an asylum, or somehow an asylum is brought to her attention. And because she is not able to work as a concert pianist now that her father has passed away, because she's in mourning and that would be inappropriate, she decides to get a job working at this asylum to see why her dad was interested in it. And then very quickly into the book, somehow she gets committed into the asylum against her will. Someone gets her in there, something's going on. And if you think about it, if you are in, like the psych ward now, the more you try to explain to someone that you're not crazy, the crazier you sound. So we were trapped in an asylum in Victorian, Edwardian period time. So like creepy, dark, not well cared for asylum. And while I was reading it, I was feeling like anxious and just like, I'm pretty sure my heart was pounding if I could have checked my heart rate. And if you can do that as an author, like that is some talent. So highly recommend this book. Really good for some creepy vibes. Okay, that was historical fiction. Now let's get on to the stack of classics. I'm just gonna go through these in no particular order. No rhyme or reason. whatsoever. Another one I would like to reread this year is Frankenstein. I feel like I don't really need to say anything else. I mean, it's Frankenstein. So it's a short classic. In my edition, we are around 200 pages, and we follow Dr. Frankenstein as he creates a monster. I read this first in university. I want to reread it this year. I am like forcing myself to. I've been meaning to for years. This year I'm going to do it because there are some really good conversations that can come out of this book, and like who is the true monster. And now that I'm just older and more mature, I hope, since university, I just want to reread this and think about these things and have these conversations. Maybe I'll get my oldest to read it. Oh, that'd be fun. We could talk about it together. I might have to do that. Then we've got some Poe. I feel like he's kind of always pushed at this time of year for a good reason. His stories are dark and creepy. I have only read, to my knowledge, I've only read this collection of his stories, which doesn't have very many. 2, 4, 5, only 5 Poe stories. I would love to hear your guys' favorites from him. This one has The Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Mystery of Marie Roget, Thou Art the Man, The Purloined Letter, and The Unparalleled Adventure of One Hans Pfaall. I read these a few years ago, but I know that he has lots of other short stories, I think. And so if you guys have some recommendations, let me know. I, as a big L.M. Montgomery fan, need to put on one of her books, and I've chosen Emily of New Moon. Emily is Maud's underlooked protagonist. She is like Anne, but a more down-to-earth or depressed version. She's not like super woe is me, but she's not as happy sunshine as Anne. She's a little bit more realistic in many ways. So her father dies at the beginning of the book, and she goes to live with two aunts and an uncle, or two women and a man. I don't remember if they're like cousins or how they're related. And it's been said that Maud based Emily more off of herself. So if you like Lucy Maud Montgomery, you should read this series. There's 3 books in the series, so it's a quicker read than the entire Anne series. And yeah, I don't know, it's just fun. Emily also throughout the series wants to be a writer. More people need to read this series. Okay, this is just also like needs to be on this list. Would also love to reread this year, but I know I won't. And that's Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is one of the first classics that I read for fun and loved. Not that I loved the storyline, but I loved the atmosphere. I think I read it in October or November one year, and I just fell in love with the coldness that this made me feel. So yeah, this is often portrayed as a romance, but it's very much not a romance story. I wouldn't take any tips, advice from this book. For me though, it's the atmosphere is what makes the book. And I think too, like knowing about the lives of the Brontes and stuff makes me enjoy their writing even more. But Wuthering Heights is definitely possibly my favorite novel of the Brontes. I still have not read quite all of Charlotte's. I think I have one left. But I think everyone should read this book. And then a short little one, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. This is the book that kind of Ruth Ware very loosely based her book, The Turn of the Key, I think, yeah, based off of. I'm not a huge Ruth Ware fan. Her books always kind of fall a little short for me, but I did enjoy aspects of that one, especially after reading this. So we follow a young governess, and she's supposed to look after these 2 children. I feel like the back just says it perfectly. Striving to protect the children, she becomes obsessed with the idea that they are in danger, and her good intentions cause more harm than good. Uneasy and sinister, this novella shows a woman's a woman haunted by an eerie and evil presence that emerges from the terrors of real life. This book was originally published in, oh yes, this one doesn't say. It only says 2021, that's not true. It was first serialized in 1898. And it's like one of those books that it just doesn't really feel like it's that old. And then I wanted to include a Jane Austen, and of course I had to go with her more gothic of novels and put on Northanger Abbey, since our main character is obsessed with gothic novels in here. This is not my favorite Austen, but it is definitely the most atmospheric for the time. So our main character's name is Catherine, that's right. And she goes to Bath with some acquaintances, I don't think they're related, and gets to know some people, goes to visit one of them, and just envisions like all these things that she's read in her gothic novels actually taking place. Her imagination just runs off on her, and it's a little bit cringy in that way, but it's also pretty hilarious. And I think that this is the shortest of Jane Austen's like actual novels. So if you want to check off a Jane Austen, this is an easy one to do it with. Another short little book that has all the bookish vibes is 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff. So these are true letters in just this short little book between Helene Hanff and a variety of people that worked at a bookshop in London post-World War II. She wrote to the bookshop looking for a book, ends up having this 20-year correspondence with a variety of the employees of this bookshop. She writes with wit that I enjoy. You get to learn a little bit about post-World War II and like the dietary restrictions and other restrictions that were going on in England. Altogether, it's just a great read. They really bond over their love of books. Highly recommend it. Super short. Two more left. Two of my favorite authors, saving them for the last, which doesn't mean I don't like them. I've got this beautiful collection of Sherlock, so I highly recommend reading some Sherlock Holmes in autumn. My favorite are the short stories, so I would say start with the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and then I would say continue the short stories. I'm not a massive fan of A Study in Scarlet or The Hound of Baskervilles. I like his really short stories. I also appreciate that they're not all murder mysteries. Sometimes things just go missing. It's not like a super dark mystery. And if you have never read any Sherlock, short stories are definitely the way to go, so this is an easy way to do that. And then I needed to put an Agatha Christie on here, of course, and I've decided to do one that is set in autumn. It is, I think, probably still one of my top 5-ish Agatha Christie. It's been a while since I did an updated video of my favorite books by her. I have one from a number of years ago. Definitely need to update it. But this is A Murder is Announced. Right on the back is perfect. It says, the villagers of Chipping Cleghorn are agog with curiosity when the Gazette advertises. A murder is announced and will take place on Friday, October 29th at Little Paddocks at 6:30 p.m. A childish practical joke or a spiteful hoax. Unable to resist the mysterious invitation, the locals arrive at Little Paddocks at the appointed time, when, without warning, the lights go out and a gun is fired. When the lights come back on, a gruesome scene is revealed. An impossible crime? It's up to Miss Marple to get the scoop. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. People are invited to witness a murder and they can't stay away, and Miss Marple, it's like just the best of the best. I could recommend a ton of other Agatha Christie here as well, but I'm just going to leave it at the one. And that is all for this year's autumnal book recommendations. I could have made this video so long, you guys, but we're gonna cap it off there. Please let me know some of your recommendations. I'm hoping to share my autumn TBR really soon. I know in my mind, we're already more than halfway into September, which is like, in my mind, autumn, but it's been warm here until I think this weekend is maybe supposed to start cooling off. So I feel like now my autumnal reading's really going to kick off. So please leave all your suggestions below. Thanks for joining me for my 5th annual autumn recommendations video. If you guys want more recommendations, I will leave my past ones below so you can even expand your TBR even more.